here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to shoot over to my co-host, Mikey CLT, and he's going to talk to you guys about a sore subject, and that being the Toronto Maple Leafs.
There it is.
Not sore for me.
Nope, not sore for me.
Yeah.
Nope.
You're a fucking Buffalo Sabres fan.
What is wrong with that? Eichel is a god.
There we go.
Eichel hasn't played this year.
Eichel's not playing. Oh.
Yeah, look at that Leafs hat. Look at you guys. Excellent.
So I when I was talking to you guys in our message, we had guys all over the map. We had Florida Panthers fans, Leafs fans, Sabres fans. So I guess kind of like we did with, what did you do in the band? Who's your team? And kind of tell us a quick, minute or so story of why you root for that team. Obviously, the Leafs one will be easier, but I'm curious about the Panthers and the Sabres for sure. So I guess, Stu, who are you rooting for?
So I'm a Florida Panthers fan. I have been since 2003.
He knows the year.
Yeah, I do.
2003 is your advocated piece of shit.
Oh man,
Go for sloppy steaks at Trufoni.
There it is.
No, I don't know. I just saw the logo. That was when I was first exposed to the logo, and I'm like, that's a tough looking logo, and I've just been a fan ever since.
And then they got rid of the
because
logo.
of their logo.
Dude, I was 12 at the time. I was so impressionable. I was like, yo, that's tough. And
I hear you.
I was all full of piss and vinegar, so anything that was violent looking, I was 100% for. Plus, I don't know, Leafs, that's not even grammatically correct.
Yeah, that's true.
So I didn't want to be associated with the dummies. And Matt Sundin wasn't there anymore. And which another thing threw me off.
2003, yeah, he was.
In 2003?
He probably would have been. Yeah.
Yeah.
What is he?
He went to Vancouver the next year.
Fair. But a plural for
Or
a
no,
name also
it was
threw me off.
2005 he went.
Yeah, a plural for a singular person's name threw me off, and just everything about that team bugged me. So I jumped ship pretty quickly.
Now, is it easy to be a Florida Panthers fan in Canada?
No, it's not. Because even when they come play the Leafs, I think it's still $400,000 for standing tickets in the Leafs to watch the Leafs, whereas I could fly down to Florida, Sunset, Florida, get an Airbnb, have parking and a free hot dog, and I think I pay I don't know, as much as I would for a case of water.
Yeah.
Yeah, honestly, it would be pretty close to the same price.
It would be.
I catch a lot of flack. I have all through my formative years. They're like, why are Florida Panthers fan? They suck. They suck. Well, now you suck, Leaf fans. You suck.
Well,
not really, but
staying on the Panthers subject,
8-1-0. That's crazy.
Yeah, they're off to a hot start, but
yeah, they are.
Who knows what could happen now that you guys fired Quenneville?
Yeah,
or Quenneville kind of resigned or whatever.
Yeah, he resigned, which it was kind of like hey, it'd be in your best interest if you resigned. But Coach Burnett, he was the assistant coach and kind of sliding into that head coach position. I think that was probably the best, most or least invasive move for them to do, because he knows cues, he knows all the I forget the word,
systems.
Yeah, he knows all his systems, and it's literally just running. Whereas everyone's like, John Tortorella's looking for work. I'm like, no. Okay, you have a team that's struggled to put offense up for decades, and you want to hire a defensive-minded coach? No, stop that. Grow up. Plus, I think Duclair and Bobrovsky are happy not having him as a coach, especially when Torts kind of put Duclair on blast, on live TV. So
Tortorella,
that is true.
Yeah,
Tortorella.
Yeah, and also I'm just gonna put my 2 cents in there. I hate that games are solved by a skills competition. I hate the shootout. I want to take it out.
Well, yeah,
I don't mind it at all.
I hate
Islanders
the shootout.
just lost a really
tough one in the shootout.
Yeah, a tough one to the Predators yesterday, and everyone was just like, "Why do we still have this? It needs to just go away."
Yeah. 2 overtimes and then just call it in a draw. I don't care. I'd rather a draw than a skills competition.
Honestly, I'd rather like you give me 2 overtimes than like throw your best bruiser out there for like a 1-on-1 fight. And then whoever
100%.
wins
That'd be pretty funny.
You know,
and now that Florida has Jumbo, I'm pumped about it. Like, we'll just throw him out there. His beard eats every single punch.
So it's so funny. There's a good chance that there he is. He's back again. Every time I don't see John move, I just automatically assume that he's either deep in thought or he's just frozen again. So let's throw it up to Yuri from MXPX. What do we got there, brother?
You got some chips?
Yeah, finish it.
He's gonna pound that whole bag by the end of the interview.
You're the Sabres fan?
I am.
Okay, so yeah, tell me a little bit about that.
I had like a family friend growing up that always had season tickets.
Okay.
So we were always going to games, and we were like 2 rows from ice, and I was like, I'd be so fucking stupid not to back this team.
Buffalo's also like an hour and 10 minutes from where we live.
So I can get like 2 tickets, home corner, like 2 rows from ice, go for dinner at the Chino, get drinks, a hotel, and it's still cheaper than 2 Toronto tickets.
Literally.
Well,
Plus, I can come home with a case of beer.
There you go.
Cheap beer.
My buddy,
Like a nice dirty 30 American rack. Like it's a no-brainer.
$17 at Walmart.
Now let me ask you a question. Just because I don't know how this goes, but like, so getting across the border, like with that dirty 30 American rack, like what happens? Like, is that like you got to
as long as you have like a receipt?
Yeah, they don't care.
give a shit.
They don't really care. But if I'm like coming back with like 60 beers, they're gonna be like, you gotta pay duty.
Yeah.
And then I'll go pay duty, and it's still cheaper than buying it here.
Yeah, that's a good point. But the Sabres, they're one of those teams, perennially rough team, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
But you guys are having a pretty sterling start right now.
They're having a good
I think
start.
that's the beautiful thing about the NHL, right? It's just like, they use the term in American football like any given Sunday, right? But like that really should be the NHL's like nom de plume, because really like you just never know. Like you never know. I mean, you could put a great team on the ice or a team that just needs, a little bit of tweaking, but the Sabres, nobody thought anything of them. Now, granted, we're still in the infancy of the season, so who the hell knows? They're going to have 72 games to play, but wouldn't it be cool, to see the Sabres kind of, Well,
I mean, I remember going to the final game against Dallas when they lost the cup.
Yep. That was the Dominik Hasek team, right?
Yeah, that's when I got into it. It was like the Hasek and like the Pekka years.
Mm-hmm. Hell yeah, man!
Those terrible jerseys.
Those were terrible jerseys.
They were
Those
such
so
good
weird.
jerseys, but not as good as
the
like
Rams head. Was that like the Rams head one?
No, that was like the
With the swords.
No. The swords were like the old school one. It was like that.
Or was it like the arching?
No, it wasn't the slug. It wasn't the slug.
That's newer. That's like maybe
Yeah, the slug was like a newer one. That was like a 09.
I think it was.
It was the red and
recently
black
than that,
one.
but-
That was the
Like
the red.
black.
Red and black had,
Yeah, it was
had the swords, right?
No.
No,
It was
there
like
was
the
also the
OG,
goat head.
like yeah, it was the goat head one.
Yeah. That's
Oh,
There's
yeah,
a ram,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
There's a ram.
The Rams head.
Yeah,
It
Rams.
was a
Yeah.
buffalo.
No, it was a
Buffalo,
buffalo.
Yeah, it's a Rams
Yeah,
head.
sure,
We
whatever
don't know
you say.
animals.
They call
That's
it
a ram,
clearly
man.
boat head though.
That's a ram, dude.
Yeah.
No,
It
but
did look like a ram. Yeah.
But yeah, no, that was kind of a wild thing. And then the thing I love so much about the Sabres is just really how much like Every Time I Die loves like Buffalo sports.
Oh yeah, love that.
And it's just like I have never been able to understand why like the Sabres don't just play like Every Time I Die song like whenever they possibly can during games, because
We've heard Every Time I Die while we were at the game. So
I mean, like I'm sure you have to. Like you
oh
have
yeah,
to.
for sure.
It's just impossible not to.
Yep.
But yeah, love the Sabres. Cats are doing great. So let's turn the sad up to 1,000. So
the big sad,
let's hear about it, boys. So
the most expensive sad.
I'll start with John here. What is going wrong? Like what What's happening right now?
They're so in their own heads. I mean, I don't think there's really much wrong now because, I mean, they won the last 2 games and they look pretty good in those games.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, the first little bit was rough to say the least, but I mean, it was also because they had guys that were usually like their rocks on defense playing terrible. Like Jake Muzzin and Justin Hall were absolutely garbage for like 4 games there. And if those guys, like your shutdown defense pair is not good, then you're going to have a tough time. And poor Jack Campbell back there making amazing saves and still getting lit up against Pittsburgh. That sucked. But yeah, I don't know. I think they're going to be okay. I think like the big guys are starting to score now. Matthews still hasn't done a ton, but obviously he's coming off injury and surgery and all that. So, yeah, I don't know. I think they'll be okay. I know a lot of people are like freaking out like the sky's falling. I don't think it's that bad, honestly. I think they'll figure it out.
Now, do you think you guys can ride Soupy throughout the season and, into the playoffs? Do you think that he can prove himself as a number 1?
Yeah, he's great, man. Like I was like a full supporter of getting rid of Freddie. Obviously, Freddie's playing great right now, but I don't. If we kept him, he wouldn't be playing like this. That's just the fact. Like the reason he's doing so well is because he's playing on a team that beat us with a Zamboni driver in net. That's like the fact. Like they're so tight defensively, so obviously he's going to have an easier time facing way weaker shots, but he still lets a lot of those in. So. Yeah, I don't know. I'm a big Jack Campbell fan. I think he's great. Mrazek's good too. So I think this is the strongest that Leaf goaltending's looked in quite some time.
And it's still weaker than Florida's 20-year-old.
I don't know about that.
And
again, you guys also just have like really good defense on Florida.
Yeah, Ekblad, Uyghur, and
that's true.
I think
and that's why I have so many Florida guys in fantasy.
Yeah.
Who thought that they would ever say that?
Yeah, seriously.
There was a lot of years of heartache, so like I'm pleased as punch about this season. Like
well, people slept on Huberdeau and Barkov for way too long.
Yeah,
like, both those guys are so good.
They
well,
sure
like
are.
even like now this year, like a lot of people were asking me about the Florida Panthers for their fantasy teams, and I was like, pick up Bennett and pick up like Duclair like as just like a bench guy, and people are like, Bennett, he was garbage in Chicago. I'm like, yeah, but like
Calgary,
whatever one, I don't know. And him and Huberdeau, they have that chemistry like what Matthews and Marner used to be. Like when everyone, like I think it was Marner's rookie year, and like just him and Matthews were just on like the same wavelength, like almost on the same heartbeat. Bennett and Huberdeau are like that.
That was 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Marner's been playing with Marner played with Tavares in his rookie year.
Whatever, I don't know. It's the Leafs. Like they didn't win the cup and they got knocked out in the first round. So
yeah, what else is new?
That is true. But Mikey and I, as Islander fans, we have a tremendous amount of experience with Johnny T.
And a first round exit.
Yep, and a first round exit, and many non-round exits. What do you have? Just like a piece of steak?
No.
I think Tavares is a fucking disappointment for the Leafs, though. I don't think he's not pulling
Guys,
for me
makes
today.
so many points. He's so good on both sides of the puck. Like, how
I don't
can you
know.
be disappointed in him? He's been
I
one
don't
of the
know.
most solid players for them.
Well, that's not a lot to ask.
top of the shit pile.
Not really. Look at how many points they get.
I don't know.
So, I guess since we're on the topic of Tavares, real quick, have you guys watched that Amazon Prime show,
Yes.
like All or Nothing or whatever it's called?
Yep.
No,
I love those kinds of documentaries. They're fantastic. And do you remember the scene where it's John Tavares sitting with his uncle John Tavares?
Yeah.
Dude, I had to record it because there was one part where they like the camera zoomed in on him, like where a normal human being would like just smile naturally, and he's like like he doesn't know how to smile. Like it is so funny. I had to record it because he is the most awkward human being ever made. Like, he doesn't know anything other than hockey. Like, even in a natural situation, like you're just having a conversation with your uncle. And he
knows when he's on camera. I'll tell you that. He knows when he's on camera. I have a few people that know him personally.
So he kind of cuts loose when he's not on when the red light isn't on.
Yeah, but he's still pretty good. Like, I remember like people who would see him around in like his London night days and like early Islander days. If they saw him at like parties and stuff, he'd be like, "Okay, we can get a picture, but no beers in the picture or anything." Like, just like he's just very conscious of that sort of stuff. But yeah, he's just very like it's like Sidney Crosby. Like, everybody will tell stories about those guys outside of the rink and stuff.
Yeah.
But as soon as they're at the rink or cameras are around, they know how to shut it down. So
yeah, and I mean, you also got to remember, like, the NHL is like one of the really the youngest sports like around. I mean, you're talking about, you got guys drafted to the show that are like on the NHL ice at like 18 and 19 and stuff, and it's like I get that, and I know a lot of what our perception of what these players are is what we see of them, but I think a lot of it is like, okay, I just signed, a 7-year contract for $8 million a year, and like, the PR specialist from the Leafs is like, okay, here's like your 5 like no-nos, like no beers, no this, no that, like don't say this, don't do that.
Don't moon security guards.
Yeah, right.
They must have missed that one.
That one, I believe they did miss. Yeah, I don't know, man. That was a whole thing. So, but I will tell you this, for what it's worth, I mean, like Tavares, like just like even when he was on the Islanders, man, like I'm sure he knows when that camera is on, but like at least like some of the other guys on the ice, like at least had like a smattering of personality. Like they would like do these things at Islander games where they would like, like it's intermission, like let's talk to the Islanders roster and like see what like their favorite like hot dog topping is, and like you'd have like Clutterbuck be like, fuck yeah, mustard or something like that, and we get to like Tavares and he'd be like plain. And like I don't know, I don't get it. Like I mean, like I don't, it's hard for me to say, right? Because I wasn't born and bred to be a hockey player like a lot of these guys were, so I'll leave it at that.
He's been in the spotlight longer than a lot of guys too, because he got exceptional status in the OHL.
Yeah,
and he was one of like 4 people in it, literally all of history to get that.
Yeah.
So the eyes have been like he's been tracked pretty much just as long as guys like McDavid and Crosby were.
Sure.
Where it's like
that makes sense.
They're like fresh in high school and they've already got cameras on them and getting interviewed at every camp they go to, and they got scouts sounding them all the time. So yeah, they've.
It's a rough gig.
I'm sure that'll get to you like on a personal.
For sure. Absolutely. No, I'm sure it does. So the only guy we haven't really touched upon, even though he's let us be known that he does not like Johnny T, is our homie Jamie up there. So give us some insight, man.
Yeah, I was most of my life I was a Vancouver fan. I liked I liked Luongo and the Sedin brothers quite a bit. And then when they both left, I kind of stopped rooting for them as a whole. And then I was like, I've always not hated Toronto, but like obviously I'm from here, so that sort of was the next step. My dad's a massive Leafs fan and whatnot, so yeah, so I started to become a Leafs fan, and I don't know, I'm so disappointed with that team. Every time they're in the playoffs, they can't seem to fucking figure out Boston. It's just they got their number, and I don't know. And then with last year with Montreal, that was so bad.
Well,
they were so bad.
They were a post away from getting it done 5 times, and it just didn't happen.
They crack under pressure.
I'll say this though:
Leafs are full.
I'll say
well
if JT didn't get injured in the first game, they would have swept.
That kind of shook them up. Like,
they were
you could see in their
if
play.
They panned to the bench. Every single player was so rattled. Everybody was like head up in the sky. Like Matthews looked like he was gonna cry, like literally cry.
I mean, like that and that. You know, say what you will. You know, a lot of Islander fans had ill will when you know Tavares left, but that injury like shook me.
Yeah,
like when I saw that, I was like,
saying,
I was like, oh my god, you know, like that was, and like watching him like try to like the thing that's like shook me the most was like, okay, this looks pretty bad, and then he like tried to like get up.
Just like and like his eyes literally rolled in the back.
Yeah, and I was like, oh my god. So I mean, but you know, and you know, there's a million dissenting opinions, but you know, Tavares gave all that he could to an Islanders team and an Islanders franchise that just like didn't put the pieces together around him, you know? So like what, you know, what could you really say as an Islander fan? Like maybe you could say, it sucks. Like, you know, he was like, I want to be an Islander forever. And then, you know, ended up kind of pulling the rug out and signing, but like he signed with the team that he grew up idolizing.
Exactly.
How can you, you know, hate somebody for that? And I mean, the dude, like, even though he wasn't Mr. Personality, he put his best foot forward as often as he could with fucking, you know, unfortunately, you know, like with like scrubs around him, like, you know, like fucking Franz Nielsen, you know, like, you know,
I mean, you look
like,
at what's happening with Eichel now. It's basically the same thing, except more escalated.
Yeah.
Where it's like the guy literally didn't have any help from anybody else. They didn't get any decent picks that panned out, and now he's just sick of it. And like every guy they got who was like when they got Jeff Skinner, he came back, had like one decent year, and then he was just like completely fell apart after that. So he's like, I don't know. I don't think they should have given C for sure. Cause like, if you're a young guy in the league, unless your name's Sidney Crosby or Connor McDavid, you should not have a C. Like those guys are a different breed.
Yeah.
My whole thing with giving people captaincy, like for any sports team, like I've been a player coach on, or I've coached for, across all sports, I never give the best player captaincy. Never, because you always look for like the people like John Tavares. You look for like the people who are level-headed, like they can lead, and like they're, because your captain is gonna pretty much be a spokesperson for your team for the
your captain also sort of needs to be a coach as well.
Yeah. So if you have some young guy like Jack Eichel or even I don't know, any like Nathan McKinnon's, who are phenomenal players, but like
McKinnon's
young guys.
Assistant.
Yeah, he's an A.
Yeah, but like that's fine. I'm talking more like captaincy, like right out like rookie year. They're still trying to get their feet wet. Like Spencer Knight, the new goalie for the Florida Panthers, said it the best, which is like the most eloquent I've ever heard. A 20-year-old. He's like, I'm at the highest level of paraphrase. He's like, I'm at the highest level of competition, but I am no way near the highest level of my potential. So like he's talking, because he was talking about the shootout and like losing the shootout, and he's like, yeah, like I'm at the show, but like I still have so much to learn, and I feel like that's the rookie's role, is to get their feet wet. Like, Absolutely. If you're an all-star, if you're a McDavid or you're like a Crosby, get your feet wet, but also show them what you can do, and maybe like down the road, because like you give a rookie a C and then they have a sophomore slump, like that looks really bad. So I've never been the mindset of giving captaincy to the best player. It's always the most level-headed, usually like a veteran. Like a Tavares or like a Jumbo.
Yeah.
And now a Barkov.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's what you want. You know, you want like sometimes those journeyman guys who are a little older and might not even play to the highest level that they played 7 or 8 years ago, but they have the experience where they can mentor, these young guys and get them where they need to get. And like, it's almost like it, like for the Islanders right now, it's like, that's what Chara should be doing. Like Chara shouldn't be out there playing the minutes he's playing. He should be just like a locker room guy who like maybe gets out on the ice every so often, but is there to mentor, you know, the guys on the team that need it, that need to understand, you know, how to kind of pick up from their mistakes and get better, right? You know, so I think that's one thing that is troubling Islanders fans a lot right now is like, you know, watching games and seeing Chara on the ice is just like the opposite of what, you know, the Islanders need. And granted,
rough,
I mean, you know, it's really rough. It's rough. And it's like, you know, say what you want about, you know, what Nick Leddy was to the Islanders or, of course, you know, Devontae's and all the, you know, but you can see it right now. Like you can see that like the Islanders defensive core is hurting. And it's even hurting guys that, you know, are perennially some of the best guys in the league. I mean, like, you know, Pulick and Pellick are even, you know, out there having some rough times. And I think it's just an issue of ice time and chemistry and just not being able to put it together. And I hate to say it, but I think a lot of it, some of it falls on Dobson too. Like I can't say that it doesn't, but like having Chara out there, I just don't think is the right thing.
Dobson's still super young though.
Yeah. And Dobson can use a guy like Chara 100%
exactly.
to like to say, okay, you know, that was a great shift or this wasn't a great shift, but like next to Chara, you know, watching this guy like lumber on the ice and dropping his stick and missing, you know, like
he's completely lost his legs.
Yeah,
like he has no legs left at all. Like I was watching the game yesterday and it was just brutal, man. Like seeing him just get beat and then try and turn around and chase guys down. Like he can't do it.
Yeah, it's just it's not there anymore. And then, you know, it's unfortunate because, you know, I think Trotz just kind of like still is like, let's see this experiment through. And it's like, you know,
at the end of the day, we had to sign a bunch of our core and he was a cheap option.
You're right.
So
I don't know how he did in Washington, but I knew once he was traded away from Boston, I'm like, okay, welcome to the denouement. Like it's definitely a decline now. It's like he's still a body, but like, yeah, like he said, if you're like 6 foot a million and still getting burned when you take like 2 strides to get from one end of the ice to the other, like it's time to like pack it up and maybe get back into pro wrestling.
But you know what the sad thing about it is like, you know, a guy like Chara, because of his size, used to be imposing, right?
Yeah.
But like, let's go watch tape. Like, right. So like whoever the Islanders are going to play next, right. They're going to go watch tape. They're going to be like, look at this fucking guy, Chara. Like, you know, like we could burn him on this side and he looks like he's pirouetting on the ice. You know, like that like monster mentality is gone. It's like in pro wrestling. It's like if you took, you know, I don't know, a guy like Giant Gonzalez. Well, Giant Gonzalez just sucks, right? But like, but like you take a humongous guy and you put him in a position where he just looks bad, that mystique is gone. So that's kind of, I think, what's happening with Chara is like, you know, where people used to be like, wow, this is like a big imposing dude. Like, let me like, you know, kind of, you know, when I'm coming into the offensive zone, let me kind of, you know, put some kid gloves on. But now it's just like, yeah, we could dance around this guy. He's going to fall flat on his face, eat a bunch of ice shavings, and that's it, you know? So it's a bummer. It's a bummer that's where the guy's at. And I hope that, you know, this experiment ends soon and maybe they give a look to Hickey again or Aho or whoever. But that's another conversation for another time, because we could just keep blasting on about the Islanders for 3 hours and then no one would even care about this podcast because they'd be like, these assholes talking nonsense.
They already don't care. But anyway, I do want to ask about the signing of Morgan Riley, because that just came out the other day.
Yeah.
So do you think, because I already know, like from watching that documentary, every single game is kind of like a chess match of trying to make like the salary cap. So like now that he has like that big ticket, do you see them having enough money to like re-sign Austin Matthews in a couple of years?
I think he's going to have to take a pay cut if he wants to, or they're going to have to wait. I mean, the cap's going to be higher in a couple of years. They just don't know by how much. And that was part of the problem, was like when they signed JT for that amount, like people trash that deal and say they paid him too much. He left $2.5 million on the table to come to the Toronto. Like he had $13.5 million or something like that offered to him from San Jose, and he turned that down to come here. So it's like, it's not like they're paying him. It's not like they paid him too much at the time. Like they paid him the appropriate amount. But like for Matthews, like he took a shorter deal and still got paid a lot of money. But the thing is, like, if he keeps going the way that he is right now, he's going to have to take a pay cut, because it's like, yeah, you won the Rocket and everything like that, but what have you done when it actually matters? And I think what they did before is, like, when they signed him and Mitch and stuff earlier, was like they signed them on the potential to do well in the playoffs. But if they haven't proven it, and they've proven that they can only do so much in the playoffs, then they got to say, look, we're going to have to give you guys a pay cut because we need other guys around you to get over that hump. So I think they've got enough talking points that are going to help themselves out with that. But I don't think Riley's contract's going to really affect that a whole lot, just because the cap will go up. And Dubas, honestly, like every single time a contract talk like this comes up and they're like, oh, how are they going to re-sign him? They do. So they find a way when they need to. Obviously, Zach Hyman didn't work out, but that was a massive overpay for him, I think.